I started making jewelry about 15 years ago, and Michael's was actually the store that I went and bought all of my supplies and learned. And then over the years, it was just a hobby because I was an executive in retail at different companies. And then the hobby became a passion, and I actually started a jewelry company called ChristyJean.com. And we sell in stores, at shows, and mostly for charity events as well. I have another jewelry company that sells jewelry and apparel. It's called Gifting Brands, and it's actually a nonprofit, and 100% of the profits go to charity. So we'd love for you to check them out. There's Christy Jean is on there, but a lot of other designer and luxury brands that you would all know and love. So we are going to make what is my best-selling Lariat necklaces on my website, and it shows, and in stores. It is, I love Druzy. It's my favorite thing to work with. And so what I'm going to do is show you a couple Druzy choices, as well as more simple ones, and then multiple ways to wear them. And then I also, if there's extra time at the end, I have other jewelry, Druzy items that I can show you just quickly how to make, and you can buy all of the supplies at Michael's. So we're going to start out making, the first one is the Druzy. And then I added an agate piece, an agate nugget at the end. So what I did was I wanted to show you how you can use, if you don't have chain, but you happen to see a chain in the store that's already a necklace, you can actually make jewelry with it. So what we're doing here is Michael sells a 3-pack, and it's on the link. And this one's called the Hamilton chain. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to take off the ends. So I'm going to take off the little extender chain, and I'll use it for another necklace another time. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the jump ring. With the lobster claw, I'm going to go ahead and take that off as well. And we'll reuse that at another time. So there we go. So first of all, I'm going to start at the bottom and work my way up. And so I've chosen the Druzy nugget. So these nuggets come in the beaded section at Michael's. And with this, I'm going to use the size 22 artistic wire. You can also use, there's other bead landing wires, any of the jewelry wire you can use in this. So I typically, something like this will cut about 3 to 4 inches. Oops, can't see with the camera there. And what I'm gonna do is, you can do this 2 ways. I'm gonna show you, so in the version that you see online, here I just did a simple version with the wire wrapping. You can also do more intricate and do wire wrapping like this. I don't know if you can see it up close. There you go. But I'm going to do the other, the non-wire wrap, just with 2 wraps. So put the wire inside the nugget, and there we go. And what's so great about this artistic wire is you can either wrap it by hand or you can use pliers. I'm going to just make a little triangle above the nugget. I don't know if you can see that. And then going to straighten out the top, because this is going to be my section that I connect with. And this is the section that I'm going to wrap. And I'm going to wrap twice around. And I'm actually just going to do it with my hand. So I'm just going to hold it, and I'm just going to turn it like this and create 2 loops. I typically like to do 2. What's great about this is it'll never come undone. Unlike, jewelry that you buy at stores, they don't do wire wrapping, and sometimes they can come undone. This keeps it sturdy or stable. So now I'm just going to tuck in, there's like a little tag right there with the jewelry. I'm just going to tuck that in with the pliers. And I forgot to say that what the tools that we'll be using today are the pliers, the round nose pliers, and just the regular nippers or cutters. So pretty simple. So now I'm going to take the round nose pliers. And if you haven't used round nose pliers before, where you place the wire is the size of the circle that it's going to make. So we're just going to make a circle here. And I like to start with the front of the piece. So I decide this side's going to be my front because I like that side better. And then I'm just going to turn it down and make about a 90-degree angle. And then I'm going to place it about right here because I want kind of a mid-sized loop. And I'm just going to take my finger and wrap the loop around the round nose plier. And then I'm just going to turn the plier slightly and finish off the loop and make a full circle. So then it looks like this. You see that? Oh, get that in there. There we go. Now I'm going to, actually, you know what? I just realized that the version I'm making isn't a closed loop. I'm actually going to add a bead. So now what's great about this wire is I can straighten it right back out and reuse it. So what I forgot to do was I actually am going to put on one of the rhinestone spacers. So these are from Bead Landing. They come in different sizes and you can choose to use a big one or a little one. I'm going to use the little one on this. And then the other bead that I'm using is at Michael's. We sell a 4-pack and of the Rondelle beads, and it comes in 4 different sizes, which I love. So you can choose which size. So what I typically do, I kind of design as I go, is I will try different sizes. So I might try the larger beads on it and see if I like it. And if I don't, I'll end up with a smaller one. And since I've made this before, I really like the small one there. So I'm going to put the small bead on it. And now I'm going to go back and make my 90-degree angle. So don't worry that you mess up the wire. It is so easy to reuse because it's very malleable and you can reuse it. So now I'm making my circle here like this. Now the thing you have to remember, don't close it yet because now we need to put it inside our chain. So now I'm going to put it inside the chain, connect it to the chain like this. Do you see that? There we go. I don't know if you can see that very well. The other thing is if you haven't done the loops like this to connect with your round nose pliers, you can make the circles any size you want. So I typically start out a little bit bigger, but if I want it smaller, I just put the needle nose plier or the round nose pliers inside and just turn it a little bit and just play with it. So you can play with that just like I did when I stretched it back out. Now in this one, because I want it to be a little tighter loop, I'm going to go ahead. You can use your fingers if you want. I'm going to go ahead and use my pliers. And I like to do like half turns. So I'm going to go down once, straighten it out, and then come back up. And then I'm going to go back down again. And so I like the look of two loops around instead of just one. And then I'm going to take my my cutters and I'm going to cut that little extra piece off. And then you see there's just a little kind of a sharp edge there. So what I do is I take it and I take my pliers and I just kind of tuck it in. And then you can just kind of feel it with your finger to see if it's there, or just look up close with magnifying glass if you need it. And there, the bottom piece is done. Now we're going to move to making the connection with the Druzy. So I'm going to choose I'm choosing now, instead of doing the purple Druzy here, I'm going to use the gray Druzy. And these are sold at Michael's as well. They are the signature Bead Landing. They come in 3 or 4 different colors. I love the purple, which I'm going to make in another version later. And I love the gray, and I think it comes in some blues and definitely in the white as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to also take our wire, and here I'm using the 22-inch. It depends on the size of the wire that you use. I use anywhere from 24 to 20. I'm sorry, 20, 22 to, or 24. Depending on the size of your chain, you want to make sure the wire you choose fits inside the hole of the chain. So I am choosing 22 here. So the first thing I'm going to do now is I need to make a connector here. So as you see, what I'm going to make right now is this connection here to the chain. You could just take the jump rings and connect it directly to the chain, but I like bling, so I always put a spacer and a sparkly bead there because I really like the way it looks. So what we're going to do is now, like we did here where we created the loop to connect it, we're actually going to connect, we're going to make 2 loops, 1 on each end. So I start down about 1 inch from the wire. I typically, just to be safe, I cut my wire based on the size of the bead. You want to choose, so even though this is a small bead here that we're going to be using, I typically like 1 inch to 1.5 inches on each side, just to have extra space to make sure that if I run out of wire, that I don't run out of wire. So I'm going to make my loop here. And again, I make the loop based on the size of the round nose pliers. You position it where you want it to be. So if I positioned it here, it would be really small. If I position it down there, it would be really big. So there's my first circle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to connect it to the top of the Druzy. Now, when you purchase your Druzy, if you get it from Michael's, it does have a little pendant link. You just take the little pendant piece off, and we're just going to use the loop. We don't want this pendant piece on that. So now we're going to connect the wire here to the bead. And if you see that, you can see that now I've connected it. And now I'm going to close it just like I did with the other ones. And in this case, I like to use my round nose pliers to hold the circle in place. So do you see how I'm holding it? This is the piece of the wire that's going to hold the beads. This is the piece that I'm going to do my wire wrapping. So now I'm going to take my pliers. Yes?
We've had some requests if you could work a little bit closer to the camera. Some people are having a hard time.
So can we see? Okay, you know what I'm going to do? Let's move this because we can probably see better there. And do I need to hold it? How high do I need to go? Maybe like there? I'll hold it up here. Okay. It's kind of awkward, but I have no problem. We'll do it this way. Okay.
And it's having a little hard time seeing, so maybe, oh, actually, I apologize. The camera just turned off.
Oh, hold on.
Sorry, technical difficulties. No, it is here. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Take it out.
If you're all still, are you still there? If you have any questions, I can answer any questions if you like. Except that I can't see the questions on my screen, Stacy. And by the way, Stacy,
Sorry.
Oh my goodness, technical difficulties of doing Zoom. And this is actually my first class I've ever taught. So sorry about that. I've done them in person when I was I used to be at Zales, and I would do half day. We had half day Fridays at the corporate office, and I would do jewelry making classes at the end of the day. It was so much fun.
Sorry, it kicked me out of the Zoom. I'm going to.
Oh, so we starting over?
Here, I'm spotlighting your front view for now.
Be right back.
And if you want to continue from the front view, I will.
Okay. Am I on now?
Yep, they can see you.
Okay, you can see me, I can't see you. Okay, so while Stacy is trying to get us back online, I guess what I'll do is just tell you a little bit about some of the supplies that we have. So in this first necklace that we're making, it's the 30-inch chain. It's called a Hamilton chain, and it's got the gold ball. I'm not sure if you can see. It's got the little balls in between, which I really love. It kind of dresses up the jewelry. And then the other pieces are a multi-strand of the gold half facet beads. These come in multiple colors as well, so you can pick whichever color you want. Again, you don't have to follow my color selection. You can do whatever colors you'd like. And then we're using the artistic wire. And again, you can choose 24, size 20 or size 22. And then we're using the Druzy, as I mentioned before. And again, it comes in many beautiful colors, and every piece is different. This is actually made from a rock. They slice it. And what happens is it gets electroplated. So they use a process called electroplating, and then they add the gold to it, which makes it so beautiful. In fact, little kids love, whenever I have jewelry shows or I was at the store, the kids would love to play with the Druzys. Are you still signing on there? Okay. All right. I can't see it on my screen though, so I don't know what we're seeing here. So that way I can see if we're high enough. Sorry about that. All right. If you can see here, what I'm gonna try to do is get closer in. So, and I'll try to go a little slower. Okay. So what I'm gonna do, so I put on the first circle from the wire, and now I'm gonna do the wire wrapping. And I'm gonna make 2 loops, and I do them pretty tight. So I go up and then I reposition and then I come back down with the pliers. So now I have 2 full loops. Again, as I said, you can do it by hand if you want. Doesn't matter if they're pretty because that's wire wrapping's all about a unique look. Okay, I'm gonna cut that off with my pliers, cutters. Now what I'm gonna do is on this one, I'm going to take, again, the bead landing metal beads, the little rhinestone spacers. I'm gonna use the smaller one. And then I'm gonna take the same bead because I want it to match. So I'm gonna take the same bead in the gold that I used with the Nugget, and I'm gonna do the same technique. So now I'm gonna put the bead on, let's see there. And then the spacer, now I'm putting the bead on. So you can see that. And now I'm gonna take my pliers and I'm actually I don't need the pliers. I'm gonna do this by hand. So now I just folded the wire down to a 90-degree angle. Now I'm going to use the round nose pliers again, and I'm gonna make the circle, which is gonna connect it to the chain. And here, again, I typically like to go halfway between on this size. As I said, the size of the circle is how big or small your loop will be. And then I'm just gonna turn this a little bit, see that? And then I'm gonna finish up the loop so it looks like that. And then when I take it off, you can see it looks like this. Now, see how this one, I don't hope that you can see this. It's got a little bit of a space here. I don't like that space. It's a little too big. What's great is this wire is so bendable that I'm just gonna turn it a little bit, tighten it up, and now it's much closer to the bead, and that's really where I want it. And I actually want my circle to be a little bit smaller, so I'm just gonna turn it again. Okay, so now it looks like this. So now we're going to connect it to the other end of the chain. Let's see here. Now you don't have to leave the loop on. You can take it off if you want to. And if you choose to use this chain, you'll want to use the 24 gauge wire instead of the 22. I typically like 22 or 20 when I'm doing bigger pieces because it's the smaller gauges are really for finer pieces that are smaller. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the round nose pliers and I'm going to hold the little loop in place. And then, and you can see, then this piece is just going to dangle here. Then I'm going to take my pliers again, and I'm going to do 2 wraps just like before. So same technique, 2 wraps each end. So I'm going to go up and then go back down until I've wrapped it 2 full circles. So I don't know if you can see that close up. I don't know if you can see that. But there's 2 wraps here. And then what I'm gonna do is take my cutters and I'm gonna cut it. And then I take my pliers, and as I said, there might be a little bit of a sharp edge there from where I cut the wire. And now I'm just gonna take my pliers and I'm just gonna push it in so it stays in place and you can't see it. And then now if by chance it looks a little crooked, so you can see here, I don't really like how this loop is. It's a little crooked. You just straighten it up. And if you don't like the shape of it, you can just move it around a little bit till you get it right back in the shape that you want it to be. And that is the first lariat. So that's the Druzy lariat. The way that you wear this is the way that I like to wear it is you put it through once, when you have it on, and then you can wrap it back through a second time. And by wrapping it a second time, it locks in place. What's great about this, so I chose this chain that was 30 inches long, pre-made. I typically like to use 30 inches because you can also wear it short and wear it wrapped. And Stacy, I think you have an example. So if you go to christyjean.com, and actually I think Stacy's gonna pull it up. I have another version, the exact same item that we've made, but with a different bead from the collection. It's actually an agate. This one happens to be the purple. And the way that the model is wearing it is that she's wrapped it twice around. So I'm going to try to demonstrate. Can you want to show me for a second as well? And then you can show the other one. So what you can do is you can wrap it twice around. Sorry, my hair is in the way. And wear it short. And there's Jayla. So Jayla is our model. So you can see how Jayla's got it wrapped twice around, and then she has it hanging as a short necklace. And again, you would wrap it, you would lock it twice in place, or you can wear it long. And what you do is you decide where, so depending on what you're wearing that day, you can, let's see, I'm gonna if I like mine right there, I position it and then I bring it back through and lock it in place, and then it stays in place. So that's the first lariat. The second lariat is similar. In fact, the second lariat that is on the list is the same technique. And since the first time we did it, you guys couldn't see it very well. It'll be good that we'll do the second one. The second one we've just done with a simple tag. And the tag that you use, or it's called a blank, I chose the Bead Landing 14-piece blanks. What's nice about the 14-piece blanks that it comes with tags that have one hole or two holes. So if you want to just do a simple ID bracelet or a simple necklace with the tag that has two holes, you can do that as well. And plus with a 14-piece, you have enough to make earrings. And I think you saw before there were earrings that match, which we'll make as well on our third project. So we're going to get started with the next one. I'm going to use the purple druzy here. And as I said here, it comes with a little pendant piece that's called a bail. We're going to take the bail off. It just comes right off if you bend the back of it. And what I love about this druzy here, the purple one, is it's different color on each side. I don't know if you can see how beautiful it is, but on this side, it's kind of a blue and purple. On this side, it's kind of a purple and kind of a mustard yellow color. So it's really pretty. And then I'm going to pick one of the tags. It's going to be the bottom piece instead of the agate. So where we made an agate here, you can choose anything you want as well. I'm going to quickly show you another one that we made where we just used a pearl at the end. So here, I'm going to see if you can see. You want to switch the camera real quick here? So here, oh, let me get rid of this little note here. Okay, so here you can see we also, oh my goodness, I love these. These are also druzys, but they're on the silver. They have silver and gunmetal, and they've got crystals surrounding them. And with this one, I chose, I used white, and then we also have in our bead landing line, we have pearls. And here I added a pearl at the end. So you can do whatever combination you want. And then what I did was I took the same pearl and then just made a pair of earrings to go with it. So just another example of what you can do with all the different products. But now we will go back to, I'll try to slow down on this one. Since again, the technique that I'm going to show you is exactly the same as what we did before, just using different materials. So what we're going to do in this one is we're going to connect the blank or tag to the chain. And let's find the chain piece here. So the chain, again, I'm using the same chain, but you don't have to use the same chain. Any chain will do. I'm going to take off the lobster claw. And this one again is what's called the Hamilton chain. Sorry, let me get the claw off there. And then the extender chain will take off. Okay, so this one, I'm going to try to do this one so you can see it up close. And let's get rid of all these extra things out of the way. So all you have are the supplies we're using. Okay, I'm going to take the 22-inch wire. I'm going to cut it about 4 inches just to be safe so that I have enough. And what I'm going to do is I want to connect it to the tag. So to do that, I need to make a loop that I can connect it with. And as I said before here with the wire, I'm going to make the loop about 1 inch up from the bottom so that I have enough of what I call a tail to be able to wrap with. Does that make sense? So then here's my loop. Here, I'm going to put it on the black. See if you can see that loop. And I guess we can't zoom in. Here's the loop. Oh. Hopefully you can see that. Then I'm just going to add the tag and put it through the loop. So it looks like this. Move my fingers away from there. Okay, then I'm going to take my round nose pliers, and here I'm just using the pliers to hold it in place. So as I said, it's now you're gonna have the long strand is where you're gonna add the beads. The shorter strand is where we're gonna make our loops. And again, here, I'm just gonna use my fingers in this one to show you. So you can even just use your fingers to wrap it twice around, or you can use the pliers. So whatever you choose. So I've just wrapped it twice. So you should see 2 loops here. Let me take that off. See if you can see that. Okay, now I'm going to take the pliers and I'm going to cut it. Okay, then I'm going to add my spacer, and I think I'm going to choose a bigger bead here so you can see what it looks like. So now I'm going to use the larger spacer, which is the bead landing, and I think this is a 7mm spacer. Because I want more bling on this one. And then I'm going to use the larger bead. So this one looks like this is about the 8mm bead. And again, it's from the same group of beads that came in 4 different strands, but see how pretty and shiny that looks? So now we need to make our next loop. But to do that, if I just made the loop with a circle here, it's going to look weird. It won't work. You have to build that bend for the back of the loop. So that's why you push it down so that it's at a 90-degree angle. And then you place your pliers, your round nose pliers, again, midway through, and I make my circle. Let me come up here so you can see it. And I'll try to do it slowly. So I'm going to make my circle. I'm just going to pull the wire down with my finger. See if you can see it to the side. And then I'm going to finish it off so that it's made a full circle here. So it looks like this. You see that? Okay. Now I want to connect it to my chain. So I'm going to add it, put the chain inside of the circle. So it looks like this. And because I'm right-handed, I typically do it this direction, but you can do it either way, left or right. Now I'm going to take my round nose pliers, and again, I'm going to hold the loop on the end just to hold it in place. And again, on this one, I'm going to go ahead and use my pliers to make the final closing loops. So again, I'm going to make 2 wraps around that make 2 loops. And what I like about it is actually part of the design. The loops end up making it, I think, look a little more expensive, and they won't come undone, which is great. So this is what it looks like now. You can see there's 2 loops. And then again, as I said there before, there's a little tag left that'll be sharp where we cut off the end. Just take your pliers and tuck it in. And if you don't have jewelry pliers, you want to make sure you're using pliers that do not have ridges here, because otherwise when you're bending the wire, those ridges will actually get embedded into the wire. So it changes the wire and puts those lines in it. So we don't want to do that. So there, our bottom section is done. And now we're going to finish it off and make the bead section there to connect it. So again, I'm going to take my 22-inch wire here. Let's cut off again about 4 inches. And now we're going to make our loop again about 1 inch down is our first loop, because we want this to be the end that we finish it off and make the loops. If you prefer to use your hands instead of the pliers, I would bring it down even further. You probably want about 1.5 inches to be able to use your fingers. I'm going to go ahead and show you though with the pliers. So again, I'm about 1 inch down, and then I'm just going to turn it around like this. So it looks like that. Oops. Are there any questions as we go, Stacy?
Questions right now, but if anybody has any questions as we go.
And Stacy, why don't you introduce yourself?
Sure, absolutely. My name is Stacy. I am the education content designer here at Michaels. I work on our online classes program. You probably have seen me on a lot of these classes as I'm in the background, kind of making sure everything works. And
So
I'm here.
Since this is my first time, she's helping me out too, which is great. Okay, so now I've connected. I've got my circle. I've put my Druzy piece inside. Now I'm going to take my pliers and I'm going to do again 2 loops around. Don't worry if it bends here, because you're just going to cut that piece off. And it actually, sometimes when it bends, it helps stay. It's easier to hold on to. Okay, now I'm going to cut. I typically, by the way, I typically try to cut facing down so that it doesn't shoot up in your eye. I probably should be wearing glasses, but normally I have reading glasses on, but today I don't. Okay, so now we have our piece, and we need to add our spacer bead and our larger bead, which I need to cut one out. Here we go. And so what we're going to do now is add the spacer bead that has the rhinestones, and then our crystal bead. And you can use real gemstones here too. So what I did on another version that I showed earlier when I did the gray, I didn't actually make this one. It was already finished. I think it's the one in your picture. I actually use labradorite. So sometimes I like to use gemstones instead of the glass beads, but I really love the glass beads because it makes it sparkle. And if you like me and you like bling, I like sparkle. Okay, so now we're going to finish this off. And again, as I said, you're going to push the beads down to the bottom, and then with your thumb, turn it so that it makes a 90-degree angle. See that? And then you're going to take your round nose pliers again, and you're going to position it as close to the bead as you can. And again, halfway down, because I like to be about the mid-size circle. So so I've made half the circle, and now I'm going to finish it off by wrapping it like this. So it makes a circle. And then I'm going to connect it to the chain. So really, this is actually very easy. It's just, once you learn the technique of wrapping, you can make anything. So this piece that I'm doing here, if you master this, you can make anything you want, because most everything you need to do, you need to connect it. Okay, now I'm going to, again, do my 2 wraps. So I'm going to wrap it down once and then come back up. I don't like to do a continuous wrap because I like mine to be a little tighter. So there's 1 wrap. Now I'm going to take it and I'm going to finish it up. And I kind of tighten as I go, not too tight though. And now I've wrapped it twice around. And again, don't worry that this part gets mangled because you're cutting it off and throwing it away. So now I'm going to cut off the end and tuck it in, tuck the end piece tuck that in here. And then you're done. And there is your lariat. Now, last thing I wanted to show you was, I am wearing, do you want to go to the camera for a second? Mm-hmm. This was the number 3 on the list. I figured we'd get through these pretty quickly. So I thought I would show you how to make a more simple one. You know, what's interesting about the Lariats is every age group really likes them. So, you know, I've sold to teenagers as well as, older ages. And usually the younger girls really like the smaller pieces or the smaller beads, like the picture we showed you of Jayla, who was the model. She really loved the smaller beads versus the bigger beads. It's really whatever your preference is. But what I wanted to do is show you, I've got a little bit of my finger smudge on there. I wanted to show you at Michael's, what's really great is you can use any circles that you want. I brought a couple other choices to show you from Michael's. You can use these circles. You can even use these. These actually components are really made for earrings, but I've used them before to make it, instead of the circular piece, I use this piece here. And then because it comes with 4, you can make a pair of matching earrings with it as well. So you can pick any component that you want. So in this case, I'm going to use the circular one because I really like this circle. And we're gonna now do the same thing. So now I'm gonna get a jewelry tag as well. So I need my circle, my jewelry tag, I'm gonna use the smaller rhinestone here, the spacer, and I need 2 of those because I need 1 for each end. And then we can make that piece. So instead of doing this piece again, because that would be the 3rd time, instead I'm going to make the earrings to match and show you how to do that. So then I use the same pieces. So what I tried to do was show you how if you just buy a couple of pieces, you can make multiple things out of it. So here, using the circles or these connectors, I'm going to make earrings to match it. And so here, these are the earrings and they'll match the necklace, or you can add anything to the bottom. If you wanted to instead use the nugget, that would be really cute as well. Or you can just leave it plain and just make it with a circle. So we're gonna now make the earrings to match that. So I'm gonna put the necklace away here. And again, it's all the same technique. So as I said before, and actually in this one, I'm gonna use the bigger. I like the bigger spacers and beads. So here we go. Okay, so these are the pieces that I need to make it, as well as my earring. Here it is, and my earring. So I typically like to start from the bottom up. So in this one, I just need a jump ring. So I'm going to show you jump rings. If you've never made jewelry before, jump rings look really easy, but they're actually one of the hardest things to master, because you want to try to get the jump ring to close tightly. So, you know, I'm sure how many times you've had jewelry where it's come undone, where the slit opened up on you. So I'm going to try to show you a little trick here. So first I'm going to put the tag or blank on like this. So let me get these out of the way now so you can see this. So got the tag on there with the jump ring. And now I'm going to take the circle. What's great about the circle is we can pick any one of the little circles in it, and I'm going to put that inside as well. And now I use 2 pair of pliers to close the jump ring instead of 1. And so I have the same pliers, but I have 1 on each side, and then I just close it. And I try to get it so that it's, you know, as tight as possible. But if it's not tight enough, you can just kind of play with it and tap it closed, or, you know, take your finger, and if it feels rough, it may not be totally closed. And you can just play with it and tighten it up a little bit. But don't get frustrated. I can tell you, when I first started learning to make jewelry, the clasps were the one thing that I had to master. And so I just kept practicing. They're very, very inexpensive. In fact, at Michael's, you can buy 100 pieces for a very inexpensive, and so you can practice with them as well. Okay, now we're going to connect the bead. So the ring to the beads and then to the earring closure. So again, about 4 inches on the wire. And I think you're starting to see a pattern here. I'm actually going to do the exact same thing we did before. We're connecting the beads. You can actually make a whole necklace by continuing to just connect the beads the same way we've made them. So as I said before, once you master this technique, you can make just about anything. Okay, we're now gonna, again, make our circle. And as you can see, it looks like this. And now I wanna make sure that I need to connect it, and I wanna make sure it's right above. So I'm gonna pick the circle that is right at the top and put it through. Sometimes you might have to open up the little circle I just made out of the wire. And on this one, it did not go in properly. Let's try that again. Here we go. Okay. So as you can see, I kind of messed up my circle. It's really easy to fix. I'm just gonna close it up a little with my fingers. And now I still have that same circle. And as we did before, I'm gonna take my round nose pliers and I'm going to position them to hold the circle in place. So now that I can do my 2 wraps to close it, I'm gonna take my pliers and I'm gonna go down and then back up and then down and around. And now I've got the 2 circles here. And I'm gonna take my pliers, my cutters, sorry, and I'm gonna cut that little tag off here, get rid of it. And so now it looks like this. And now I'm gonna take the rhinestone bead spacer and put that on first. And then I'm gonna take the gold bead, the glass bead, and put that on. So it looks like that. And then now we wanna make the loop at the top. And depending on what you're making, I'm gonna show you, if you're making, let's say I was gonna stop here, and on this one, because the earring wire, the way it's being made, I need the loop to go the opposite way from what we were doing before. So instead, I always try to make my loops go in the same direction. So we were just going, I was making the circles at the top and going diagonally. Now I'm gonna make it go the opposite way. So instead, I'm now going to bend the wire and go to the left this way so that my circle goes, is this, you see the circle in front instead of the side of it, so that when you put the earrings on, they lay the right way. So now I've got my little, I've got it at my 90-degree angle. Again, position your round nose pliers in the middle so that we can make our circle. And again, as I said, you want to get it as close to the bead as possible. Now I'm going to use my finger just to make the little loop and then turn here and wrap it around. So it looks like that. And there's my loop. And on this one, now if I was going to connect it to something, I could just connect it to the earring here, but I'm going to put this earring on last. I'm not going to do it that way. So now the tricky part is I want to make sure my loops are the same size, because I already have a pair of earrings that I made already, or one side. Now I want my loop size to be the same. So this is where you want to play with this to get your loop to be the same, because what will happen is, let's say I made this one bigger than the other one, they're not going to hang the same. One earring is going to be longer than the other, and we don't want that to happen. And typically what I'll do, just to be safe, is I will take a piece of wire. This is just a little trick that I do. I'll put the one I'm making in the wire, and I'll take the one I already made and do the same thing. I'm putting it through the loop, not with the earring wire. And then I go like this, I hang it to see if they're hanging right. Oh, guess what? This one's too long, so I need to make it shorter. So now I'm gonna take this one off, and it's about 1/4 of an inch too long. So now I'm gonna play with the wire. Let's try that again. So I'm gonna stick it back through the wire and hang it and make sure they match. So I'm not sure if you can see what I'm doing, but all I'm doing is hanging them on the wire and to see if they're the same length. So now they look the same. before I did this, I would end up with earrings that were mismatched because one was too long. So hopefully you'll learn something. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to take it, and again, we're going to close it with the 2 loops around, or 2 wraps. Does anybody have a question so far? Okay.
Patty asked if you could show the tie off for the Druzy necklace up close.
The tie off of the Druzy. Okay, we'll go back and I'll show everything on it. So we'll make sure we catch that. Okay, so for the earring closure, I really like this style. I don't know if you ever shop brands like Kendra Scott. This is the style that they use with a little bead. It actually is really pretty when it's finished and put on the jewelry. So you just open it up and see how that is right there. Maybe you can't see it very well, like this. And then I just take the pliers here and you just tap it closed and it stays in place. And then you've got earrings. Okay, so let's go back to the jewelry. So what the question was, how do you tie it off?
Yes.
You mean when you wear it?
Yes.
Okay, so it's really simple, and I'm just going to see if I can show you here. So all you do is, I typically like to go from underneath. So when you have it on, you stick the tag or blank through, and you see if you left it once, it's not going to stay in place. All you have to do is wrap it a second time around like this, and then it stays in place. So it won't come undone when you're wearing it. It stays in place, and it stays wherever you put it. So if you want to wear it short or long, it just depends on where you end up placing it. So that's why I said, if you want to put the camera back on me for a second, I'll show. So in this case, okay, let me just get rid of this here. Okay, so in this case, I want to wear it right here. So what I'm going to do then is take the end and put it through the bottom hole, put it through the hole. And then I'm going to just wrap it one more time back through the hole like this. And then wherever you place it, it stays in place. So, see that? It stays in place, which is great. And it secures it, which is awesome. Now, one little trick, if you happen to really love a bead that you want to put at the end and it doesn't fit through the hole, but it still has a hole, I'm going to show you what I did on this one. So this was the Druzy that I showed you that has the crystals that Michaels carries, which I absolutely love. But this, I decided to use a pearl. So see how instead of the crystal beads, I used pearls here. So same exact technique, but I chose pearls. But the pearl piece was too big to go through the hole. So what I did was I went ahead and made the top part, and then I went ahead and wrapped it once around before I put this end on. So you can wrap it, once you put the end on, it won't come undone, so it won't come out. But when you put it on, then you'll have to position it down at the bottom so it can go over your head, and then you can place it where you want. So that's just a little trick. I mean, most of the things that I think you would end up using probably have big enough holes. But sometimes you find Druzys that you just love and the hole might not be quite as big, like this definitely wouldn't fit through. So then I would just do that. So you just wrap it one full time around and put this on after. So you put this on last after it's wrapped. Then lastly, I wanted to show you, there's a couple other, sorry, another question?
One more question. Could you demonstrate the wire crossover technique?
Wire crossover. Was that in making the loop?
I think it was in making the necklace. Or yes, in making the loop. That's what she said.
Yeah, the loops are, once you make this technique, again, it's really, really simple. So here I've got a piece of wire, and I know, I'm so sorry, this camera, it's not showing very well, but I'm going to show you, this is the same way I'm doing this. It's the same technique on each end. Just sometimes you already have a bead on the other end. All right, so you're going to so is it making the circle that you want to learn? Is that it? Well,
She said no.
okay.
I'm gonna ask her to clarify.
So maybe it's after the circle's made.
She said the crossover.
Oh, I know. Okay, here. So we're making the circle here and we're crossing this over. Is that what you're talking about here? So I think what she's asking is that, yes, okay, no problem. So there's different ways that you can do the circles. And what's great about YouTube is when I learned to make jewelry, I had to do it by a book. So you can buy a book and if you want to see more detail, but there are other YouTube shows that will show you more detail. But what you do is, let's see if you can see that. So when the wire's position, you can do it in 2 steps like this. So you've got the circle. If you want, I'm going to show you in 2 steps, okay? So then you can put it back inside here. And then I'm right-handed, so I cross it over at the top. Or do I? Nope, I cross it over at the bottom, sorry. What's great is you can just redo it. So I cross it over at the bottom. Do you see that? And then when I turn it over to then, let's say I'm gonna connect, let's just connect another tag here, right? So now I'm gonna put it through and put the tag inside. So now it's inside my circle. Do you see that? And now I'm gonna take my round nose pliers and I'm gonna hold it so that the item that I'm connecting it to is on the right side, and the side that I'm going to make the loops is on the left. And again, you can do it opposite if you're left-handed. I happen to be right-handed. And so as you can see, when I said this crossover, that made my crossover. So again, it looks like this here. Now I hold it just in place. You can use pliers too. If you don't have round nose and you want to use regular pliers, you can do the same thing. So you just hold it with pliers and then take pliers again. And now I'm going to make my loops. So I'm going to go down 1 and then back up. So all I'm doing is circling the wire around the longer piece like this. And again, as I said, you can actually do this with your hand. And you can just keep going. Like if you really like the look or you want to make, I'm just going to keep this going and show you what it looks like. So you can just wrap this wire. Oops. There used to be these bracelet styles that had the wire that just continue to wrap around. So do you see that? So that made about 5 or 6 loops. Not that I'm going to use it. You wouldn't do this. I typically do 2 and stop. But then see how there's the little piece at the end. So then what you do is take your pliers. I like these they're called nippers from Michaels. And actually I've tried so many different brands. Even before I joined Michaels a year ago, I always came back and bought the Michaels ones because they last longer and they get in tighter spaces. So you clip it off. And then I don't know if you can see there's a little bit of a piece left. I just take my pliers and I just kind of tap it closed and tighten that up or squeeze it down so that you can't see it anymore. And then we'll do the other side because the only thing it's a slight difference when you add a bead. So we'll go ahead and add our spacer and we'll add a bead and I'll show you the finish again. So I'm going to add my spacer. I love these spacer beads and I use them pretty much on almost every design I do because I love bling and it adds a little bit of bling, but not too much. And as I said before, depending on what you're making, you have to decide, do you want your loop to go sideways or do you want it to go in the same direction as the bottom of it? So I want it to go in the same direction. So I'm going to make my loop going this way, not this way. And don't worry, if you end up making it the wrong way, you just turn it around and bend it. It's so easy to fix. So now what I'm going to do is I am going to make this, because this now has a bead on it, it's not exactly the same way to make it as I did the bottom one when I had nothing. So see here, I just made the full circle on this one. To make the full circle, I have to bend this down and then I put the pliers, the round nose pliers in. Can you see that? So I'm going to put the round nose pliers here. And on this one, then I take my finger and I just bend the wire around. And on this one, I'm going to stop halfway to show you so you can see what it looks like. So now halfway, you see, I'm going to see if I can put it down there and you can see that. Or I'll put it back up higher. So my fingers are in the way. So do you see that? So it's halfway done. And the crossover, I think, is what you're asking. So now to do the crossover is I'm going to put I reposition the round nose pliers, and I'm just going to take my finger and I'm going to like move it to the side of the bead and then just finish the circle here like that. Do you see that? Now there's too much room here. I don't like that the circle's so high up in this one I just did. So I'm just going to take my pliers and turn it. So I close it up a little bit so it's closer. Let's see if you can see that. And now let's say I'm just going to finish this off and make a pair of earrings, right? We're just going to stop here. So, and I want to turn it. So now, as you can see, I don't want my loop going the same direction. I want it facing this way, because when you use a earring wire, it goes in, it needs the circle to be this way so they hang properly. So now I'm just gonna, now that I've got my crossover, so I've made my circle, I'm now going to close it. Again, I'm gonna use, well, actually, since this one's long, I'm just gonna show you if I use my fingers. I'm just gonna wrap it around with my fingers. You can do it either way, whatever's comfortable for you. And then take the pliers here and close and nip it off, and then just tuck it in here like that. Now, did that answer your question?
Yes.
Is that good?
Thank you for the explanation.
Awesome, awesome. Okay, so I wanted to just show you, we're not gonna make this, but I also want to show you with Michael's products, you can make things like bracelets. Like I love, this is one of my favorites. I've sold a lot of these where you just buy the cuff. Michael sells it in the jewelry department. And then what I did was I took the jewelry, or took the Druzy piece. You do have to have one that has, even if it's just a small circle, it does have to have a circle inside. And what I did was I used the same wire for the wire wrapping, and I wrapped it from, so where the loop of the Druzy was at the top, I placed here. And then I use a lot of wire on this. I probably cut off 2 feet just to be safe. And then it doesn't matter what it looks like because you can't see it when it's done, but you can see how I probably have, in fact, in this one, I use the 20 gauge. I've got about 7 strands. So I wrapped it around about 7 times. So I connected the loop end here, and then I showed the wire and made more of a, kind of a little design here, and looped it from the other side and just wrapped it around. And if this is something you would like me to teach you next time, I'm happy to do that. And then you just use glue underneath it just to secure it, to make sure it stays in place. And then you can do that with any kind of stone, as long as it has either 2 loops at the end. So if it comes with a loop here and here, then you don't need to do the wrapping here. You can just loop it around. Or if it only comes with 1, then you can do it like I did with this one here. And we are finished. Now, if you have any questions, I'm happy to have you ask questions, or if you have any questions, if you're a jewelry, you want to sell your jewelry. I've done it, and Etsy, on my own website. I started about 5 years ago, just doing some fun craft shows, and then moved my way into some stores. So it's a lot of fun. I really love it. But I did it even while I have a full-time job. So I'm so excited that I work at Michael's, because I get to do what I love, and on the side have my jewelry hobby. So I'm really happy that you joined us. And again, if you have any questions, we have a couple minutes left, or if you decide to make it, we'd love for you to make it. Show it on Facebook or Instagram. And I think, do they tag Michael's?
Hashtag Michael's classes and hashtag make it with Michael's.
So hashtag Michael's classes or hashtag make it with Michael's. If you want to reach out to me, you can go to, you can message me on Facebook at Christy Jean, I think it's under Christy Jean Boutique, or at Gifting Brands on Facebook. And my name is Jeannie Barsom, and I was thrilled to be your host. Thank you. All right. Let's see who joined.
I'm gonna end the meeting.